सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So we were studying the concept of knowing the reality. We cannot know the reality insofar as there is nothing for us, there is no subject object relationship between the knower and the known. When we're talking of reality, we're talking about how everything is. And obviously, we are part of that everything. We are not divorced from that. It is, you know, it is a facet of the ego that talks about me, the viewer of everything. But this is a rather complex notion to get. We are all the time seeing the world from our particular perspective. And we will continue to see that perspective until I am there, right? How, I can't divorce myself from the perspective. So knowing the truth is actually going beyond my perspective, which will completely happen only when I know reality. Like the problem with this word know is it's always assuming there's a something to be known. And therefore, we change the word and we say you realize the truth. Now, if you think about the word realize also, you will find problems. But the fact is that any word will be incorrect. And so, therefore, we are just going with knowing the reality because there is really no word. But even though we're using the word, we have to understand this. Conceptually, we have to get that there is no knowing in the sense of I know something. There is reality cannot be known like that because it is segregating one part of reality from the other, which makes no sense. So, to actually know it, we have to go over ourselves, above ourselves, beyond ourselves. That brings us to the principle involved. How do we know this? If I cannot use my thoughts to know it, if I'm not the one knowing it, how is it going to be known? Everyone's with it so far? So far, so good. I can't see you all, not a single. I mean, there's such few people in the class. You all can put on your videos. This much, I'm sure. You know, we are in our off season at the moment. Very few people come to class in this season. They are busy partying. So those who are here, I can see them. So now, so far, so good, everyone. Okay. So how are we going to transcend thought? How am I going to transcend myself? I'm going to transcend myself by taking up something higher. So basically, I'm going to take up a thought to get rid of my thoughts. It sounds silly, okay? Because anyone will ask and question that how do you say you want us to get rid of thoughts? Then why are you telling us to take up thoughts? Because of, we will study all that, I hope. Because you see, there's an inherent dichotomy here. that to get rid of a thought, you have to use a thought. Just as when you clean water with alum. I don't know, have you ever heard of cleaning water with alum? Uh, no, I think everybody, we are all old enough, I think, to know what cleaning water with alum was before the age of aquaguards and what is that, ozone and aquaguard and then filter and all these things. So many things we had, right? But before all this story, there was taking a piece of alum in a little bit of water and sort of putting the alum in that water, and the alum was actually dirt. You can't drink the alum. But what happens is that alum collects all the dirt and settles down. So that on top, then there is clean water. Deepraj may not know of this. Deepraj, you know of this? Cleaning water
About
with alum?
uh, I've seen it when I was very young.
Huh? Okay. But nowadays, the youngsters, I don't think anyone would know what we're talking about. Okay, so just like we use alum, that means you're adding something non water into the water to get rid of everything to purify the water. Similarly, you have to add thought to remove thought. That is the principle. Right? So let's read further. So, however, any thought will not do. Right? You can't say I'm cleaning water. Instead of putting alum, you put some mud in it. Then it won't work. You have to put alum only. So similarly, any thought won't do. What kind of thought do we have to put in? Lower thoughts are superseded by higher thoughts. When we take up the higher, the lower falls off. So it's a very particular kind of thought you have to take. You can't take any thought. You have to take higher thoughts if you want the lower ones removed. What is self evident to anyone is sometimes not self evident to the super intelligent. When you go higher in life, the lower sometimes just doesn't occur to you. It's a very interesting phenomenon. So here's a story about Newton. Newton, the story goes, you all know Newton. You all know Newton, right? Newton was a super intelligent guy. He was able to put all of physics into three laws. I mean, brilliant. And he must be one of the what they call goats nowadays, all time greats. So he was a goat. So here is the story about him. Newton, the story goes, made two doors for his cat and her kitten to pass. For the cats to go in and out of the house, he made a big door for the big cat and a small door for a small cat. When his neighbor asked him about it, Newton replied that one was for the big cat and one for the little one. But the little one can go through the same door that the big one can, said the bewildered neighbor. Because it makes no sense, right? Why would you have two doors? Ah, Newton says, I didn't think of that, said Newton. He could figure out gravity and change the way humanity looked at physics, but still could not figure out that both the cats could use the same door. Isn't it incredible? Sometimes when you go higher and higher and higher, the lower just goes out of focus. When occupied with the higher, the lower gets blurred. Great minds sometimes cannot be expected to understand futile things because their mind is preoccupied with higher visions. This is so difficult for people to understand. I mean, the wide majority just don't seem to get this idea. Great minds sometimes, not always, sometimes, cannot be expected to understand futile things because their mind is preoccupied with higher visions. Like the store. Oh, sorry. Mostly we also absence of mind like Newton. Well, I don't think we can compare ourselves to Newton. Yes, we have got absence of mind, but may not be because we have higher thoughts. So he has got higher thoughts, and he's preoccupied with physics. So he can't understand the most simple thing, which is the kitten can go out of the same door as her mother. You don't need two doors for them. It's like if you make a door big enough for the biggest person in your house, others can all go through that door. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have one big door for the children and one door for the big people, right? So great minds sometimes cannot be expected to understand futile things because their mind is preoccupied with higher visions. Like the story of the defeated king who sought refuge in a farmer's home. Defeated in war, he asked for and was given shelter in a poor farmer's home by the lady of the house. She, believing her king to be a poor soldier, sympathized with his wounds and allowed him some rest and food at her cottage. Soon, she needed to go upstairs and attend to her baby, but her cakes were in the oven. She requested her war weary guest to look after her cakes while she tended to the baby. Her guest readily agreed. As she left the room, the king's thoughts were totally engrossed in reworking his war plan to retrieve his kingdom. The lady came back to find her cakes were burnt. She railed at her ungrateful guest. The king humbly apologized. Much later, when the lady learned the identity of a royal guest and his lofty plans at her house, she was horrified. She had asked her king, engrossed in protection of the kingdom, to watch her cakes and abused him for not doing so properly. Sometimes you just can't relate to the lower when your thoughts are on the higher. Each one of us is made of multifarious thoughts, mostly uncontrolled, undisciplined thoughts. Many branched, the Gita calls them. These thoughts need to first be disciplined and controlled. We discipline thoughts by giving them a point of focus. Initially, when we are selfish, we need goals to discipline our thoughts. You see, this line that we need to give our minds a point of focus is usually understood by people to be meditation. When the mind is many branched, you can't do meditation. You have to learn to work with goals. And that's our first step in life for anything. You just learn to work with a goal. It doesn't matter what your goal is. Just learn to work with it. It doesn't matter how long term, short term, whatever. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, whatever you can do. It may be a week goal, it may be a month's goal, whatever. But the only way to discipline ourselves is by having a goal. And the longer the goal, the further away it is, the more you're going to discipline yourself because you cannot afford to get, what should I say, anxiety ridden or anything, right? Now, a goal of university can be quite far off. We give ourselves this goal, and you cannot say, oh, there's no university yet. Well, it's not going to be. It's a very long journey. So the higher, the further away your goal is, the more we have to discipline ourselves. So if you're beginning this, we have to have small goals, like maybe for a week, for a month, for a year, or something small, which you can achieve. So that's how we go about disciplining our thoughts. First, we start with a goal. Any goal, it doesn't matter what your goal is, because it is not the goal that's going to do anything, but your capacity to achieve whatever it is that you have set for yourself. Okay. So initially, when we are selfish, we need goals to discipline our thoughts. The multifarious thoughts start converging onto the goal. As the goals start becoming subtler, they get the title of an idea. Right? So as you start disciplining thoughts with a goal, like disciplining yourself, then you start being able to conceive more. And now your goals become higher and higher. They no longer will be called a goal, they will be called an ideal. Yeah, Pravesh?
Ma'am, I have a question. That if we are means we are living with a selfish purpose and we set some goal, that goal will also be selfish.
Correct.
Then how then we will be able to connect with the higher goal?
Because you cannot connect with a higher goal unless you know how to be disciplined to begin with. So even if you set a selfish goal, that's good because now you learn discipline. Okay, so you have to learn something. It doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter what order you take it in, but you have to learn something. Either you learn unselfishness or you learn a goal. Normally, I don't know whether I'm biased or what, but it is possible that many of us are very good people, but we have no control over ourselves. At least those are the kind of people I meet. I very rarely meet anybody who is a negative person. So I may be biased. I meet all these good people who have no control over themselves. Maybe my bias. So therefore, it doesn't matter. You can try to be unselfish or you can try to be disciplined. But since most people who come to Vedanta are generally better, it's better for us to work on the discipline content. Like, how many people come to me and tell me, I would like to do this for Vedanta, I'd like to do that for Vedanta. They're all charged and they're all motivated. And 2 days later, it's all fuss. It's like a balloon. Have you seen those balloons? You blow the balloon and you go fuss, and then there's nothing left. Like that it is. So if you don't have the capacity to, what should I say, stick with something. And most good people fail in areas like that. Like negative people are not going to want to study these things. So goals, even if you think it's a selfish goal, whatever your goal is, get it, do it. Even if it's a goal for the next 2 weeks, get it, do it. Then you do for 1 month. Then you do for 6 months. Until you get the hang of committing to something and doing it. That's why, even as an institution, when we work, it's very important. If you say you're going to call somebody at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it is a work ethic for us that you have to call. That person may not be available, even though he has told you to, but you call. If you say, I'm starting the class at 7 o'clock, well, you start the class at 7 o'clock because you have committed. You know that nobody else will be there. When you start, nobody's going to be in class. Now, of course, things are much better. Still, you do it. Right? So you basically make those commitments, whatever commitment you want to make, just so that you're in control of yours. Okay? It doesn't matter, selfish, unselfish, doesn't matter. Just do it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Deepak Sethi?
Yeah. Jankiji, the way I am understanding your narrative is that we all have, and the more selfish, then more this quantity of undisciplined, multifarious thoughts. So the first step is to just gather them and to focus them and make them disciplined. Now, given that we all have whatever tendencies we have, it just says start by taking a goal as a means to focus your thoughts and discipline your thoughts. The second part, this is in response to Pravesh, then your second part of the narrative says make it subtler and subtler. So when you make it subtler and subtler, then that is the second requirement. So when you make it subtler and subtler, it will become unselfish, relatively unselfish, selfish, and that's how you will be able to go up the ladder person.
Okay, so you have a question or not?
No. I was
Okay,
just
okay.
I was just saying that the purpose of that's how I'm understanding the narrative.
Yeah,
The purpose is
Pravesh's problem was that, like, she was not in sync with this idea of a selfish goal is okay.
Yeah. So my response was that it is okay to the extent you are gathering your thoughts, disciplining them. Finally, it is necessary but not sufficient. Then you have to go to subtler and all so that it is in sync with the higher.
So that's what the answer was.
Yeah, no. So I was just focusing that the purpose of the goal is not the higher goal to begin with, but it is to gather our thoughts. So in that context, even a selfish goal is tenable at this stage per se.
Yes, correct. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so first we fix a goal, and then as it goes subtler, it becomes an ideal. An ideal is a goal which considers the welfare of a wider cross section of beings. So, goal is for yourself. Goal is a target, it may be for yourself. Now, when it is not for yourself, you are able to think wider, you're able to think more. Then now it's becoming an ideal. So, when you say more, it means for more people or more beings or a wider circle of identification. That's what it means. It doesn't mean my turnover was 10 crores and now I want to make it 50 crores. That's not what it means. What it means is I was trying to achieve wealth for myself. Now I'm a wealth creator for so many people. Something like that. Okay? Now, you will notice in this world that most of the people who set out trying to make money, which is the vast majority, didn't make any money. But those kind of people who set out to do something useful, they are the ones who made the money. Typical examples will be like maybe Tata Group. They were doing something, whatever they chose to do, either set up aviation or set up steel plants or whatever they did. They wanted to do that, and money was a byproduct. Bill Gates wanted to work on software, and money was a byproduct. And Warren Buffett wanted to work on companies, reading, I don't know, reading their balance sheets and figuring out whether they're doing well. So they're doing something, and the money is the byproduct of it. If our primary goal is money, usually we don't attain. That is why in the Indian scriptures, they always say that if you chase Lakshmi, Lakshmi is Chapala, is Chanchala. But if you chase Vishnu, then because she is a devoted wife, if you serve Vishnu, she will serve you. So, this is what they're trying to communicate, that you do something, no? In this world, doing is better than not doing. Even people, anything you do is better than not doing anything at all. That is why many selfish people also do very well, because good people like to do nothing. And the selfish people are all charged to do something. So at least they're doing something. And because they are doing, please understand how we are all benefiting. Right? Somebody has gone now to the electricity office so we can run the class. Somebody has created all this cloud in Zoom and all that, so we are able to do this class. So, because they have created value, there has been benefit that other people have got out of it. Therefore, they have made their millions. So, let's think in terms of what are we doing? Who are we benefiting? Who is getting value from this? Who is the service for? And when you start thinking like that, it need not be who in this or whom in the sense of a living being also. It could be anything. It can be the services to mathematics, or the services to classical music, or the services to or traditional forms of art. Could be to a thing. It needn't be to a person or to a being. One person, I can't remember whether it's a he or a she. I think it's a she. She's an elderly lady and she has planted thousands of trees. Just thousands. She's created forests. Isn't that amazing? She just decided to plant trees and every day she will go and plant a tree. And of course, then she's looking after those trees. Incredible. Then she got some award from the government also because she created forests. She or who, I can't remember. Sorry. But you can look up who is this person who's going about creating forests. Forests. Not just like, 10,000 trees or something like thousands and thousands. All right. So let's continue. An ideal is a goal which considers the welfare of a wider cross section of beings. This makes the mind purer, and the individual is said to be grown spiritual. As the ideals keep getting higher, they encompass wider and wider cross sections. The highest ideal is self realization or God realization. As the mind becomes more and more focused on this ideal, all other thoughts and desires wane away. The person becomes single pointed in the pursuit. Now, from the plurality of thoughts, he has come to single focus. I hope you're following the flow of thought, right? What did we say? We said that the, excuse me, reality cannot be known. We can only know it when we transcend ourselves. Okay, so how do we transcend ourselves? We have to transcend our thoughts. How do we transcend our thoughts?
Take up higher thoughts.
Take up higher thoughts. What is higher? But you can't just take up a higher thought. If you're an indisciplined person, how are you going to do this? You will take up a higher thought, that higher thought will leave you and go away. So you can't take it up. So therefore, you begin by
Building discipline.
discipline. You take up any goal. Okay, so at least by taking up some goal, you learn some amount of focus. All right, once this happens, then we can take the next step and allow it to encompass more and more. Jay Chandran, somebody says the lag of achievement with goal makes stress. So we can set goal with. Okay, yes. Many people are of the belief that by having a goal, you get stressed. This is actually incorrect. The more you have a goal, the more disciplined you become. Goal doesn't mean just, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. That I want this makes us stress. Goal means I want to, what? Give me some goal. I want to learn to play badminton in the club. Do you play badminton? Okay, Chandan, yes, okay. So I want to play competitive badminton in the club. The tournament is coming up in 3 months. I'm going to play in that tournament. This is a goal, which is a specific thing in a specific period of time. So those 3 months where you're training, you enjoy the training, and you also know that nothing is going to happen for 3 months. The tournament is 3 months later. So it's actually a way of reducing stress. Okay, because the more you are focused on your goal, the less stressed you get, on the grounds that you have already in your mind said this is happening in 6 months or 3 months or 2 weeks or whatever you said. So you know that this is a 2 week affair now. So it actually takes the stress away. People get stressed because there is no goal. There's only expectation that I will get this, I will get this, you're waiting, something will come. But if you have a goal and it's clear that it's in 2 months, then you're not waiting because you know it's 2 months away. Okay? So, but most people who plunge into action, they are less action and more I want, I want, I want. And that's where the stress lies. So gradually it goes up until you come to that final thing that I want self realization. But to say it in the beginning when you have no discipline, you have no control, nothing, and I want self realization, it makes no sense. It is just, what should I say? It's a dream. It's nothing more than a dream. They're not going to get you there. As the mind becomes more and more focused on this ideal, all other thoughts and desires wane away. The person becomes single pointed in the pursuit. Now, from the plurality of thoughts, he has come to single focus. Remember, all those various thoughts have now become one. I want self realization. When we are at that stage, that is the stage for meditation. In the silence of meditation, this last thought, the ideal for self realization, is crushed out of existence. Even that goes away. What remains is the self, God, reality, whatever name you want to call it. Here, all language breaks down, and the final truth can be called by any name. Thus, by this process, the thoughts are brought to single pointedness and finally eradicated. That is the state of the ultimate reality, the blessed state of enlightenment. It is the philosophical and religious answer to the theory of everything. All the scientists are hunting around for the theory of everything. And this is the philosophical answer for the theory of everything. So far, so good. The line of thought is clear. We are trying to know the reality, but knowing the reality is a borrowed term. You can't really say that because knowing implies there is a knower and there is a known. So that's not what's going to happen in reality because we are part of the reality. So that has to break down. There isn't me knowing something, there is the reality. So once that is clear, we understand that to know the reality, we have to transcend ourselves. Transcend ourselves means what? Transcending our thoughts. How do you do that? You bring them to single focus, and having brought it to single focus, you annihilate them. The last point is meditation. In that meditate, that is a technique to remove the last thought. Now here we don't want to remove the last thought. At the moment we want to gain the last thought. So don't go into meditation at this stage. At the moment we have to learn discipline. And discipline comes with goals. And then we raise the goals and goals, raise until come to the last. Then remove that last thought, and what remains is the reality. Deep Raj. To grow out of any thought, we take up a higher thought. Except for the higher thought, how does that work? How does the final thought go? Very good question, Deep Raj. But unfortunately, there's no answer to this question. It goes. In the Gita, the Lord says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhya mokshashyami ma sucha. So sarva dharman parityaj. Having left all dharma. What is the dharma of the body? Perceptions and actions. Dharma of the mind, emotions. Dharma of the intellect, thinking. Having left all this. Parityaj. Having done that. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Just think of me alone. Surrender to me alone. Just one thought. Aham tva sarva papebhya mokshashyami. I will give you freedom from all thoughts. Ma sucha. Don't worry. That's all he said. Don't worry. You do so much and then you don't worry. So there's basically no answer to that question. How does that last thought go? But we have his guarantee. Don't worry. You do so much, then you don't worry. If you can come to that last stage and stay with it without getting anxious, am I realizing? Am I realizing? That thought will automatically wane out. That's why he says, just come there. Don't worry. It will be done. But don't worry, Deep Raj. We have a long journey ahead of us. Let's get there. Okay. But in answer to your question, there is no answer to that question. That's nice about Vedanta. When there's no answer, they will simply say there's no answer. They'll not make up some fancy answers. All right, so let's continue. So far, so good. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right. The path. The principle of thought removes thought is practically executed by the spiritual path. Okay, so now you've understood in theory what you have to do. Now, what do you really have to do? That is what he's coming to. The principle of thought removes thought is practically executed by the spiritual path. That's what you really have to do. The spiritual path, divested of its unnatural outgrowths, is the path by which we eradicate thoughts and merge with the ultimate reality or divinity. Divested of its unnatural outgrowths. What are the unnatural outgrowths? What are the unnatural?
Actually, would it be the fixation with the path itself?
Yes. Anything that doesn't take you to the reality becomes an unnatural outgrowth. I love my guru. I love my religion. I think my religion is the best. Anything that doesn't take you directly to realization is an unnatural outgrowth. You have to do this. You have to do that. You all have to follow my religion. All of these are unnatural outgrowths. Why? Because they're not doing what you're supposed to do. You don't have to tell other people what to do. Let them figure their path out. We have to figure our path out. Unnatural outgrowths means fanatic attachments to anything on the path, any part of it. Because the moment you get fanatic, you're sitting there, you're doing nothing. Yoga means to join. There are 3 yogas or methods for this merger. They are called Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. They are followed by the final procedure, dhyana or meditation. Even connection with Guru is fanatic. It applies the same. It's not the connection with the Guru, it is the fanaticism towards it. If you don't love your teacher, you're never going to learn anything from your teacher because you'll always be beset with doubts and indecision and all. So, the affection for the teacher, the surrender to the teacher, these are all very important things. But when it becomes fanatical, in the sense you think my guru is good and everybody else is terrible, it becomes like your guru becomes more important than the goal. When you do silly things, these are unnatural outgrowths. you are interested in things other than self-realization. That is when it applies. And that applies across the board. Going to temples or church or mosque, anything. When you use it for a purpose other than self-realization, yes, then it applies. But these are all tools, and we have to use all these tools. It's very difficult to reach higher without a teacher. And you can also use your teacher as a barrier to your growth. It's very difficult to reach without karma yoga, but you can also use karma yoga as a barrier to growth. Very difficult to reach without bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, but you can also use it as a barrier to growth. So you must know what you're doing. Okay, is that clear? It's not that connection with the guru is fanatic. It's when you're not using it correctly that there's a problem. Okay. Okay, so what are our paths? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, followed by dhyana or meditation. All religions are nothing but a mixture of these three in varying proportions. Christianity has its karma, its rituals and social work. It has its bhakti, which is choir, singing, prayers. Its jnana, Bible studies, catechism. So too with Islam or Buddhism or Jainism or Zoroastrianism. You'll see every religion has all these three bits in them. And each one, what should I say, emphasizes one of them a little more than they do the others. Anyone in pursuit of the reality of God would require all the yogas. Karma, action, yoga is the use of the body in developing higher thoughts, reaching up to the thought of self realization. Usually, this is the easiest because what happens when you do karma, all of you who have done karma, you must have noticed you get together with people, you're doing something with people, you're doing something, it's not very abstract, it's sort of concrete that, oh, we are doing X or Y or Z, there's something in particular we are doing. So it's not too much strain on the intellect. It is doing something. The body performs actions which can be self-centered or for a higher cause. When our actions are dedicated to self-realization, they are called karma yoga. These actions are of service and sacrifice. We usually think of it as social work, volunteerism. But karma, though inclusive of social work, is not restricted. It is the attitude of service in every aspect of life. At work, at play, at home, everywhere. So, to become good at karma means that not only you're working for the cause, but that wherever you go, your attitude is the same as if you were working for the cause. Your sense of reverence and devotion, wanting to serve, becomes a habit, becomes a mental habit. You find it difficult thereafter to keep thinking of what am I getting, what am I getting. It just becomes a habit of living life. Bhakti, devotion, yoga is the use of the mind in developing higher thoughts. From personal self-seeking emotions to purer loving emotions. A universal affection as opposed to restricted emotions for just a few, family and friends. It's same that we did in karma. When you start doing bhakti, you start training the emotions. This is obviously slightly more difficult than doing karma. If you're doing a lot of bhakti and there's no sign of karma, then bhakti is usually enjoyment. But what we have to do is, when you go to God, you're trying to express your affection for Him in the sense of gratitude, in the sense of thy will, not my will, be done. That is the concept of that whatever God does for you is the good thing. Whatever God wants from you, that's the good thing. See, everything is about Him, it's not about you. So when you train your emotions to be like that, then you're able to take that emotion more universal. When you're with your family and friends, you do that, right? Which mother will take the best piece and give the bad piece to her child? She wouldn't do that. When you are with somebody, you always want to give the best thing to them. No? Whenever you like somebody, you want to do something for them. Somebody, is sort of, I don't know, getting up to get a glass of water, you say, "Atharo, main leke aata hu," because you would like to do something for that person. So that attitude we must develop everywhere. A feeling of gratitude rather than demands. A constant awareness of the benediction of nature and awareness of receipts from all sources fills one with a sense of gratitude to life itself. Bhakti also includes surrender, the recognition of our vast ignorance in the face of reality. So little we know, so little we are capable of knowing, and we talk so much. I mean, Newton, who was able to put physical laws into three broad laws, felt he was like a child picking up pebbles on the shore, while the vast ocean of knowledge lay all undiscovered before. And what do we feel? We feel, oh, I know so much. It's incredible. So that feeling that bhakti is understanding that you don't know and you're not going to know. It's not possible to. With this little intellect, we have a little, say, what should I say, a little pitcher, and you go to the ocean and try to bring the ocean. How is that possible? There is an interesting sort of story about the Vedas. They say that the sage wanted Vedas, knowledge. So he wanted the Vedas. 4 Vedas we have. And there's a constant pun on this thing. Okay? So he called Brahmadev and he asked for Vedas because Brahmadev is supposed to have the Vedas. So he said, please give me the Vedas. So Brahma said, fine. And a huge mountain came in front of him. So he took whatever he could. How much can you take? Huge mountain came in front of the Vedas. So then he took whatever he can. And the story, and of course, the Vedas are mighty. There's thousands and thousands of verses. So he took everything he could. But he made no dent in that big mountain. So he said, thank you very much. I will take only so much because how will he take the rest? So the story goes, he took a little bit, as much as he could take. And then the thousands and millions of verses of the Vedas he took. And the story goes that all these stories, millions of verses, are not even available to us today. Of now, we have a very small portion of the portion that he took. It's the same idea. The same idea, which is that don't even try it. And this story is told to those who study the Vedas. And if you study one Veda or two Vedas, what is that? Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi, 2 Vedas, 3 Vedas, 4 Vedas. but you know nothing because it's a very small portion of the amount that sage took, which he took from that mountain. You cannot know. It's not that you don't know, it's also that you cannot know. That's what we have to get. Momita. How can we know that this is the right path and also understand that we do not know? Interesting. You don't say this is the right path or wrong path. What you say is that this makes sense to me. As I stand here now, this seems sensible. Since it seems sensible to me, I am doing it. Whether right or wrong will be revealed to me as time goes. It is exactly like driving a car. You can only see a very small portion. That small portion, what your headlights are showing you. That's all you can see. So you have no option but to follow it. The reason you're on that path, you must have thought for something. This is the right road, whatever. You have a map, you have something, you have GPS, something that makes you go on that road. You will know whether that right road is right or wrong only when you reach the destination. Sometimes even our friend Mr. Google, he takes us on a wild chakkar. But 98% of the time he seems to be right. So we use Google Maps, isn't it? So you don't know whether you're right or wrong. When you claim knowledge, that's when the problem is. What we can say is, okay, this seems reasonable to me right now. This is what I'm doing. And I know why it seems reasonable. It's not a, it's a belief, it's not a knowledge. Is that okay?
Yes, Jankaji. The only thing is then there are all kinds of beliefs and so there are times when we feel that uh, you can't help thinking that I know better, like because I have come so far on this path and it has so far proved to be what was expected of it. Then I sort of assert myself. Then I feel no, but I'm talking about things which I really don't know so much. So then there's that confusion.
Yeah.
How do we know? Yeah.
You cannot know. That's the whole thing. You can, every one of us, you and I and everybody, are somewhere on the path. All right. Now we have got some knowledge about us and our surroundings. Now, somebody coming from some other path in some other way, from some other point, we cannot know whether it is really, it will work for them or not. We cannot superimpose our things on them. And those things which we can superimpose, those are eternal principles, which are very few. So, unless you're talking about an eternal principle, such as world means change, okay, unless you're talking about an eternal principle, it's better to be suggestive.
So can we assert something like spirit is superior to matter?
No, because you don't know that.
We don't know that. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Bharat, the moral of the sage story was the shortcoming of the intellect in grasping the totality. Yes, of grasping the totality is one way of looking at it. Even understanding the world as it exists today, you can't. Because the Vedas don't only talk about the reality, it also talks about worldly things. It tells you so many things. But you cannot understand the reality, you cannot understand the world. That is that song of Kabir. Karman ki gati न्यारी सब नदियाँ जल भरी भरी रही हो सागर की विधि खारी. So you cannot understand the reality, the totality. You cannot understand even the world. You cannot understand anything. We have a very small window for anything. Okay? Deep Raj. Since comprehension leads to correct emotions and correct actions, why do we not prioritize Jnana Yoga? Good question. We do prioritize it. We do say that, you must make sure that you get up in the morning and study. We do prioritize it. But it's not easy. The easy part is Karma Yoga. It is, we would love to prioritize it. But you cannot tell people to do something that they're not able to. And Jnana Yoga means you take eternal principles and you're able to see their connection with your daily life. Like you take individual is equal to matter and spirit. Okay, that's an eternal principle. Now, what do you do with this eternal principle is never clear to anybody. So, though we say, 20% reading, 80% thinking, nobody gets from individual matter, spirit plus matter is equal to individual. Nobody gets from this statement to, let's say, understanding other people. They don't, the connection doesn't come. Or nobody gets from the world means change to saying, okay, today my relationship or my child or something is in this manner, and tomorrow will not be in this manner. That connection is very difficult to get. That's where the reflection comes. So we do prioritize it, but it's a tougher method. Best is karma. I mean, easiest. Jay Chandran, mostly shall we follow Guru to know right path? Yes, if you know somebody who you feel knows the path better than you, and you follow that person, that's always a good thing to do. The problem is you can't make a universal thing out of it, because when there is no Viveka Buddhi, we will find the wrong person to follow. So you can't make a universal law out of it. But it's exactly like this, right? Suppose you had a badminton coach, he will help you win your badminton tournament better. But if you go to a football coach and tell him, teach me badminton, then there's a problem. So same thing on the spiritual path. We catch hold of any Tom, Dick, and Harry and say, I want the spiritual path. You are a teacher, so you teach me. It doesn't work like that. Right? He may be a football teacher. How can he teach you spiritual path? Okay.
Chankiji, I'm not very clear on Maumita's question and your response. Could you just repeat the question and your response about the spirit and matter?
Her clarification on the answer was that can we say spirit is higher than matter? To which I said you can't say that because you don't know that. You don't know spirit, so you cannot claim it's being higher than matter.
When we say we don't know spirit, what does that mean?
You don't know it.
Meaning here, what does the term spirit mean?
Brahman.
Brahman. Okay, now if this is not the eternal truth, then what is?
This is the
that Brahman. That Brahman is higher than. Actually, it's just Brahman, meaning as per the knowledge. It is not. There is nothing else but Brahman.
Yes, but you don't know that. If you claim something you don't know, that's hypocrisy. This is what you have dedicated your life to finding out. I mean, if you're on the spiritual path, that what is the ultimate truth. And you also understood why it is important to know that.
Okay, Brahman, perhaps, yeah, we don't know Brahman. But if it was to be said that intellect is higher than body and it's higher than mind, that would be an eternal truth, right?
Yeah, it is subtler. We use the
It is
word.
subtler and yeah. And therefore, that is something that you can profess, you can assert, to use Mamita's language. Yeah.
Yes, when asked to, not just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if somebody is saying some emotional thing and then you go and tell them, oh, intellect is better, then you stand the danger of loss of life and limb. So when
Yeah. Okay.
at the
Yeah.
appropriate time, yes.
Yeah. No, it is contextual.
Yes.
Thank you.
Komal, maybe we know but not realize. That's what knowing means. Knowing means realize. Unless in philosophy, knowing means doing. Spirit is greater than matter is the hypothesis, and spiritual path is the experiment. That's correct. Okay, so that's it for tomorrow. For today, we'll meet again tomorrow. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Yeah, Janki.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Janki ji. Hari Om.
Thank you,
Hari Om,
Janki ji.
Janki ji.
Hari Om,
Thank you.
Janki ji.
Hari Om, Janki ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Janki ji. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Janki ji.
Hari Om.